Mena-Watch, der unabhängige Nahost-Thinktank.
A very warm welcome to a brand new episode of MENA Talk. My name is Jasmin Arémi, an editor at Mena-Watch, and my guest today is Maral Salmassi from the ZERA Institute in Berlin, their executive chairwoman. And today I want to talk to her about that work. Mrs. Salmassi, it's great to have you.
Thanks.
Perhaps you could briefly tell us how the ZERA Institute came to be and what specific goals you're pursuing in the fight against anti-Semitism, but also against radicalization, especially in Berlin.
Well, ZERA was founded because after October 7th, anti-Semitic mobilization, Islamist narratives and radicalized media visibly escalated in Berlin. And not just on the streets, but also within cultural and educational spaces and massively online as well. I observed how all those who advocated for BLM, yet who had fallen completely silent after the tragic murder of Mahsa Amini, were suddenly out on the streets on October 8th, proudly displaying keffiyehs and Palestinian flags, chanting the phrase "from the river to the sea." And that honestly really shocked me. That was, I would say, the very catalyst. Yes, and our primary goal is prevention through education. We demonstrate how anti-Semitism operates today, even within its Islamist and colorfully progressive packaging. And we equip institutions with the necessary tools to recognize and effectively halt radicalization in its earliest stages.
You have an expert council. What's its role? For instance, it includes prominent figures like Seyran Ates. And I believe that's also a significant portion of the Institute's daily operations and various events.
The expert council provides us with professional feedback and credibility. However, it's not merely for decorative purposes. It serves as a crucial quality and reality check for our work. And Seyran Ates, for example, contributes the perspective of law, its practical application, and the protection of victims. What truly works effectively? Where exactly are the existing blind spots? And ultimately, which specific formats can truly be deemed accountable? Such questions. We don't build on celebrity names, we build on expertise, which is all too often genuinely too quiet in Germany.
The Institute hasn't been established for a very long time, just 7 months. Have you already been able to pursue or achieve any specific, tangible goals?
Yes, but you have to take the timeline seriously here. ZERA isn't a decade-old institute, but a project built in 7 months. For this, we received initial development funding, a detail which, regrettably, current press coverage has chosen to completely overlook. During this time, we first established a sustainable structure, assembled an interdisciplinary team, moved into our offices, set up a studio for educational and media content, an expert council with highly recognized individuals, as well as a robust network across academia, politics, and civil society. A robust international network has been established. And secondly, we've delivered substantial content, initial research reports, workshops, and 2 major public events featuring panels. Both of them were completely booked solid. This clearly indicates a genuine demand for straightforward, ideology-neutral anti-Semitism and Islamism prevention. For 7 months, I'd say 7 months of development time, that's a very concrete track record.
The press has recently become quite vocal, making a bit of a stir about you and the Institute. There are accusations, including from Daniel Bax in the Taz. If one knows him, then you'd understand that you really can't take that too seriously. How would you, in general terms, rate this portrayal of yourself and the statements that have been presented so concisely in the articles? You know, what's your assessment of them?
First, as you said, one must examine the source of these accusations. Daniel Bax has been facing criticism, serious criticism, for years because of his views on anti-Semitism and Islamism. For instance, he described, and we absolutely must illustrate this point, the brutal assaults on Israeli Maccabi fans in Amsterdam merely as disturbances occurring on the fringes of a football match. I also find that quite remarkable. Anyone who describes an organized manhunt for Jews as just a side event at a sports occasion, someone who characterizes anti-Semitic violence in such a way is, from my perspective, truly not to be taken seriously. It is also legitimate to inquire from what perspective he is now evaluating both our work and me as an individual. Wouldn't you agree? I draw a very strict distinction, a really clear line between Islamism as a political ideology, and a Muslim as a person. He is accusing me of being, yes, a hate preacher, which is something I am being reproached for by him. I'm Iranian. Half of my family are Muslims. My criticism is never directed against anti-Semitism, against two totalitarian ideologies, It is unequivocally not aimed at Muslims or individuals, but rather at their networks and pernicious ideologies. If that is twisted into hate speech, that is definitely, in my opinion, a truly grotesque distortion of reality. And by doing that, he essentially makes Islamism immune to any form of criticism He morally discredits the criticism, virtually invalidating it, and denies people like me my experiences, or outright forbids me from speaking about my own culture, effectively silencing me. And now you have to look at it. Who are these people, right? Every single time, it's white men, specifically privileged white European men, who believe they have the right to dictate to us marginalized minorities, be it Kurds, Iranians, liberal Muslims, or ex-Muslims, exactly how we should articulate and discuss our very own personal lived experiences. That is racism. That is the racism of low expectations, nothing else.
You definitely get the feeling that Daniel Bax isn't the only one. There are certainly several authors who, especially in work critical of anti-Semitism that is also critical of Islam, they consistently emphasize that they absolutely cannot distinguish this ideology, this Islamism, from actual Muslims. Could you perhaps briefly explain, so the listeners are on board, what the actual difference is? It's not that difficult, but maybe it needs to be said again and again.
Yes, so Islamism is a political ideology. It's fundamentally about control. And it has no real spiritual component. So the spirituality is basically just a means to an end, or a pretext. And Muslims now, like Seran Ates, liberal Muslims, modern Muslims, who, although there is no officially reformed version of Islam, there is also Sufism and many different interpretations, of Islam. Those that are more spiritual. Or, for instance, Sufi Islam, it's genuinely spiritual and truly has no aspiration, shall we say, ambition to govern or anything of that nature, unlike Salafism or similar movements. So that's the crucial difference right there. I personally hail from a theocracy, which serves as the most quintessential example of Islamism you'll find. If we want to explain Islamism now, their Sharia is the very constitution of the country itself. And so, that is in essence the key distinction. Are you secular and do you practice your religion at home? Yes, one practices their religion at home and you don't want to convert everyone, and you believe that women are subordinate to men, etc., and so on and so forth. Or do you want a caliphate then? So those are the two primary options. However, there is also naturally the Muslim Brotherhood present. They are far more subtle, significantly more subversive. Not like the Salafists, so loud. They don't loudly demand a caliphate. Instead, they infiltrate various systems. They infiltrate governments. They infiltrate institutions. And through subversion or dawah, they fundamentally change societies from within, subtly and effectively.
This criticism that was just voiced or that was only recently published in a few newspapers, It almost feels like a rather targeted campaign. You could say that. In Daniel Bax's case, for example, what were the key points where your positions were distorted through isolated quotes and exaggerations? In your opinion, that is. I have also written down a few quotes. We can talk about those in a moment.
For example, he actually made the assertion that I had described Palestinians as, or those individuals who actively championed the human rights of Palestinians were referred to as Pali-Orks. That is an outright falsehood, a complete untruth. That's simply not true. It cannot be interpreted from the tweet in that manner, no matter how much he tries to twist and distort it, or how much he tries to bend the truth. It was unequivocally clear. What I articulated and what I truly intended to convey referred to violent demonstrations where Jewish individuals were violently attacked, where law enforcement officers faced aggression, and where the fundamental right of Israel to exist was outright denied, among other things. And to label a political phenomenon as Pali-Orks as a headline, you understand, is certainly not That is absolutely not dehumanization, as he portrays it to be in any way, shape or form. And it is directed against in itself. It is actually directed against an ideology rather than against specific individuals. And he's essentially attempting to reframe the situation.
When one actually examines the original quotes, which are not even referenced or cited in the text at all, then many things present themselves in an entirely different light.
Yes, also the quotes, the direct quotations were also, a part of it. Like, for instance, my Soros quote. I really want to address that now because it absolutely wasn't correct. And, I am always open to constructive criticism, so I'm happy to talk about it. I had completely forgotten that I once commented in that manner. Most probably I had a glass of wine in the evening while browsing X, and then I put that comment right beneath the post. I had completely forgotten about it. So in the debate, for instance, there was a post from Visegrad that was discussed, focusing on Soros financially backing radical networks, including those directly responsible for the campus occupations that occurred in America. And he did so through his NGOs, which were subsequently also supplied and funded through taxpayer money. Within this particular context, I unsuitably and improperly characterized Soros as a parasite, and I wish to formally retract that statement in its entirety. That was an over-the-top statement, a bit of an exaggeration, you might say. That was a mistake, and I'm stating that unequivocally. My intention was to offer a political critique of certain specific funding and activism structures and not an ethnic or religious attribution. My intention was purely political, and I am also fully aware that the name Soros has been instrumentalized in anti-Semitic conspiracy narratives for many years now. Exactly why I ought to have phrased it with greater care. Yet that doesn't brand me an anti-Semite, as he wishes to portray. He wants to pretty much discredit all of my work and the work of the Institute, with one comment taken out of context to discredit me, as if I thought to myself one evening, now I have to explain to the world that Soros, the Jew, is a parasite. That's how he portrays it, and that's not what happened.
For instance, another accusation that was leveled was that the CERES Institute was entirely unknown and without any substantial scrutiny of its content, still managed to secure a six-figure sum from the public coffers. Now, of course, we discussed this earlier. It's already been 7 months. How does this situation appear from your point of view?
Well, I would flip the logic. It's almost absurd to claim that the state would grant a six-figure sum without a review. Who would believe that? I mean, I find it so incredibly hair-raising that anyone would even believe it. There are project proposals, cost plans, earmarking, interim reports, and proofs of use. In this context, unknown doesn't signify non-existent, but instead means not situated within the accustomed landscape. We absolutely must be very clear about this. Anyone who addresses anti-Semitism within far left and Islamist circles is certainly not operating within a comfortable consensus. But prevention should not be dictated by political convenience, in my opinion. And being new does not automatically imply being unqualified. Uncomfortable doesn't mean unprofessional. That's what I want to say, and that's how they frame it. Yeah, there's really not much more I can say about it. It's truly, every time I hear it, I marvel.
Yes, it's that context for proper classification that's missing. It's not clean journalism, you have to say that, because it wasn't about a news report, but an in-depth article. However, we can definitely take a moment to discuss the quote or your recent tweet if you'd like. Specifically, it was about the Magdeburg Christmas market. You are being accused of spreading a conspiracy theory, reinterpreting the perpetrator as an Islamist without any concrete evidence. So what exactly was your statement?
I have an analysis that was based on the publicly available Arabic language statements made by the perpetrator. I based it on posted. And this statement, it wasn't just those tweets, but also pronouncements from ex-Muslim individuals who were directly affected. I then also communicated with those individuals on Twitter regarding this matter. I have screenshots of their very own tweets, which I also included in a Substack article where I compiled all these also tweets from Taleb himself and had them listed chronologically. Basically published it and documented it and documented all the sources and so on. Therefore, conclusions can and absolutely should be fact-checked and openly discussed. I truly don't comprehend why my analysis, which, mind you, could certainly be either accurate or incorrect, is now suddenly being labeled a conspiracy theory. It isn't grounded in some random notion. Rather, it's genuinely based on facts and data that I've carefully analyzed and interpreted, and now that is being framed in a specific way again. Therefore, anyone who happens to be interested can head over to my Substack, where there's an article, and all of these pertinent documents have also been published directly within that very same article.
What parts of your work are actually being left out of all this criticism? What's always completely overlooked? Right now, you're practically being framed as a hate preacher who embezzled funds. To speak hyperbolically, one could say that. It's a bit odd, but oh well.
Well, three things get lost. First, our methodological standard, definitions, distinctions, IHRA. Second, our content and formats. Thirdly, my biography as someone who knows Islamism not just theoretically, but from personal experience. I lived in Iran, I experienced the war, I even went to school there. I arrived in Germany as a refugee during the period of the Iran-Iraq war. That means my perception. The perception of Islamism and extremism and of anti-Semitism is incredibly important to me, especially as someone who comes from a country where anti-Semitism is unfortunately a state doctrine and deeply embedded, is well-grounded and is incredibly important. It is a truly significant aspect that one simply cannot overlook, particularly if you are attempting to categorize or understand me. Instead, everything is being personalized, moralized, and framed in a partisan political context. It's truly not fair.
The reason I'm bringing this up now is that it's certainly becoming noticeable that, in principle, all of these projects that are critical of anti-Semitism are coming under intense scrutiny and attack from certain individuals, and specifically, the funding for these initiatives is being called into question. It is simply striking when you delve into deeper research, and that is precisely why I believe it's crucial to address it now. Do you also perceive any political maneuvers or underlying motives driving this criticism? Especially in the context of this Berlin funding debate that's also involved with the CDU affiliation, your CDU affiliation.
Well, it's very clearly an election campaign being waged on the backs of projects combating anti-Semitism. That's one thing. And secondly, it's also, there are structures and institutions, long established, deeply entrenched structures that have been in place for years, which hold a very different understanding of how to combat anti-Semitism effectively. It's also a question of who defines anti-Semitism. So, who gets to decide what the proper methods are for fighting anti-Semitism and all of that? It is truly a struggle for power, and I believe that I've been caught up in that, caught in the crossfire, or perhaps all of us, as the projects are in a situation where they are. We now find ourselves in a very specific period, just before the election campaign, which is when this all started, when we received approval. And now, right in the thick of it, the storm is quite intense, precisely because we are currently approaching the elections. And from what I've observed so far, it's mainly the Greens. It is specifically the left wing of the Green Party that is relentlessly targeting us in this situation.
Have these accusations already led to any concrete consequences for the Institute itself, for its collaborations, the expert council, or ongoing funding?
Yeah, not really. So we'll see how things develop and unfold now. So campaigns like these really do act just like smoke grenades. They cost time, money, and frayed nerves. Indeed, they do. But their primary purpose is to intimidate and deter. Some partners cooperate more quietly, others are waiting to see. That's precisely the collateral damage they're deliberately orchestrating. Preventative work is being undermined without having to ban it openly. That's what's happening.
The inquiry committee is also scheduled for February 27th. Tomorrow? Tomorrow, that's right.
That's it?
What do you expect from the session?
I expect procedures and responsibilities to be clarified and that transparency won't be exploited as a political gimmick or theatre. Instead, it should serve as a genuine instrument to ensure that funding becomes fair, understandable, and fully verifiable. But I think that's an illusion.
So, what specific forms of transparency and control mechanisms regarding funding are absolutely essential and verifiably necessary under any circumstances?
Transparency simply cannot be selective. There's no point in publicly dissecting individual projects while others with an ideological bias are just waved through. Control must be procedural, it needs clear criteria, undeniable evidence, auditability. Then and only then will the debate shed its truly poisonous character.
Are any of your ongoing projects currently impacted or any events affected, or has it truly just been this loud media debate until now?
Fortunately, up until now, it's really just been this loud media debate. Of course, we are diligently pushing forward with our tireless work, and we are striving not to be sidetracked by all this incessant noise, because that is precisely what they are aiming for. And we certainly won't give them the satisfaction they're looking for.
What consequences, in your opinion, do these public accusations entail? For instance, the allegations against 2 female staff members who might have held different jobs during their university studies have now been completely distorted and taken out of context. Well, this has several consequences: the factual discussion of anti-Semitism, the Institute, and the individuals themselves.
I mean, personal rights were indeed completely trampled underfoot there. That was totally irrelevant to them. Hannes Schrader, I really shouldn't even... It's actually not important to even mention his name. Some junior journalist at Spiegel. Back then, because they couldn't find any evidence, they essentially targeted 2 of our employees, both Jewish women and refugees from Ukraine, one a data analyst, and the other a trained university-educated journalist who works with us. She handles our social media, and another one who evaluates content, online content for us, and so on. She also specializes in Wikipedia. These are the ones they singled out. At first, it was said that one was AI generated and didn't even exist. Then they dug up side jobs from their student days, back when they were just 18 or so, and blew them up into a huge scandal, making it seem like these were their main occupations. They then went on to claim that these individuals weren't even qualified for their current roles. Qualified for the role, and then in this article they illustrated this with their names and photos. It is truly, it's just sad, that's all I can really say. It's truly a level of unscrupulousness that cannot be surpassed. Shameless. And the latest article about us, it doesn't say anything new. He's just picking up on things Bax has already mentioned, and he's also omitting certain details. He claims, and this is also untrue, though it doesn't surprise me when it comes to Schrader, that I had not commented on his question regarding Soros at all. It's a complete fabrication. I actually wrote that I directed him to my official statement, which is clearly available on our homepage. We had it published there very clearly and explicitly. Of course, he ignored that and claimed she didn't comment on it. Why? Because that statement also specifically names him and details what he did, what he orchestrated with our female employees. That is just truly, it is just really, and honestly, it's unbelievable. I don't even want to go into detail anymore. It's exhausting. Honestly, it's just getting completely insane at this point. It's so crazy. I've never experienced anything like this. It's a first. I think this will also be, unless you're Britney Spears or a politician, something like this happens only once in a lifetime or not at all.
Dear listeners, at this point I just say, be careful about what you read.
Yes.
Mrs. Salmassi, thank you for clarifying. We certainly hope everything continues to go well. Thanks for your time.
Yes.
If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, activate the notification bell, and feel free to share this conversation on social media. Find more discussions, analysis, and insights regularly at Mena-Watch. I'm Jasmin Arémi. See you next MENA Talk.
Mena-Watch, der unabhängige Nahost-Thinktank. Besuchen Sie auch unsere Website. Dort finden Sie täglich neue aktuelle Berichte und ausführliche wissenschaftlich fundierte Hintergrundanalysen zur Geschichte und Gegenwart der MENA-Region.